some multiple linear regression. So in this regression that we are doing currently, we are having all our variables as quantitative variables. That is current asset ratio, opening stock prices, and this is opening stock prices, and then we have the closing stock price. So if we want to predict one of the variables here, in this case we are predicting closing stock price. And if you're predicting closing stock price, so that means this is our dependent variable and these two are our independent variable. Here we are not going to use the year. So when we have these, we are trying to ensure that our dependent variable should be in either side. Either it is in the first row or it is in the second row. We will see why this is very important, to ensure that it is either in the first or the ensure that if the independent variables, they are in the same, they are side by side, and the dependent variable is in one side. So for us to analyze this, remember the basic. We had said that you have to have installed your data analysis tool pack. The data analysis tool pack here, if not installed, I will also include the link for you to be able to follow the steps for installing the data analysis toolbar. So go to data on the toolbar. In the toolbar here, we have the file, home, insert, play, page layout, formulas, and also data. So select data. After you have selected data, go to your far end here. We have data analysis on our right, the corner top, data analysis. So select data analysis. We all have these tools here. So our main tool that we are interested in is the regression. Select regression. So after you've selected regression, so the input range, the y input range is our response variable or the dependent variable. In this case, the closing stock. You select closing stock, and then our x range is what? Our x input range is a current asset ratio and opening stock. So as you can see, it has been selected here. So you come and select them, both of them. So we come to our next thing. So the next thing are these checkboxes. These checkboxes, we have the labels, confidence level, and the constant is 0. So the one of the most important thing here is these labels. What does labels do? Labels try to tell us, is your data, does your variable have variable names or not? If they do have variable names, you need to check the labels. So in this case, you'll see that our first row are the variable names. That is current asset ratio, opening stock prices, closing stock. So you need to check this. Otherwise, if you don't check them, as Excel assumes that all these are numbers. But when you go to analyze the data, it will not be able to analyze because it will find that the input range is not numerical. So let us try first of all. So you see, this is what we get. Regression input range contains non-numeric. Of course, these are not numerical variables. These are text. So what you need to do, you tell Excel, hey, this is the first row has variable names. So when you do analysis, start from this second row. So, and then we go to the confidence level. Of course, they have given us an assumption of 95%. You can change where you want. Constant being 0, that means our constant being 0, but we are not instructed with our constant being 0. We want to Excel to do the calculation and give us our constant. So the next place is the options, output options. Output options means what? Output options means that where do you want your results to be pasted? The first place your results can be pasted is the output range. Output range within this worksheet. I can say let my results be pasted here, let them be pasted here, let them be pasted from this end, let me paste it from this cell. It depends with where you want your results to be. The next option that Excel gives us here, a new worksheet ply. A new worksheet ply means within this file or within this workbook, but in another sheet. Our sheet is sheet 1. So we can have sheet 2 where our results is going to be. It will be auto-generated. Now it will be in the next. It will be in the next sheet. Another one is a new workbook. A new workbook means I don't want my results to be in this file. So I need my results to be in another file. So it depends with what you want. So in this case, let us select new worksheet ply. So once we have selected new worksheet ply and we click OK. Good. And these are our results here. So we go and interpret our results. So the first things first, for us to interpret our results, usually try to give ourselves a significance level. So our significance level, in this case, we have selected maybe 5%. So 5%, what does this mean when we're 5%? We are trying to compare between our p-value for us to be able to evaluate our model if it's adequate or not, and also our independent variable. First thing, we're here to see that if at 5% level, so the first table for you to be able to interpret is this, the ANOVA table. And our main thing to check is the significance F, or this is, in other terms, they are calling it what? We call it the p-value. So this is our p-value. And this p-value, you will find that this is 0.0057. If it is 0.0057 compared to our significance level, our 5% or 0.05, you'll find that this one is lower than this. So if it is lower than the significance level, so what we suggest, we say that our model is adequate. So we reject the null hypothesis and say that our model is adequate in uh, in explaining the variation in closing stock, because remember we were predicting closing stock. So this model can help us to understand or to predict the next, or to predict if given the current asset ratio and the opening stock, we will expect this will be our closing stock. So the model is adequate. So the next thing is this table. This table, what does this regression statistics tell us? It tells us the model performance. R square, what is R square? R square is 0.581. So this one we read it as a percentage. So if we change this into a percentage, we change it to a percentage, it gives you what? 55%. So it tells us that 55% of the changes in closing stock is explained by this model. This model, so 45% might be it might be an influence of other factors which we don't know, but we know that 55% of the changes of these closing stock is influenced by these two independent variables, or it's influenced by this model. So that is what it tells us. And of course we have the multiple R. This is like our correlation. So if we go to the final table, which is here, this final table tries to tell us, this is the first thing, the intercept. So the intercept is here. So the first intercept is 32. So and its coefficient is 32. What does the intercept say? Intercept gives us is an assumption that given all factors constant, or we don't have all these other things, we don't have current asset ratio, we don't have opening stock, we don't have all those things, what is our expected closing stock? We expect that the closing stock will be 32.30. So that tells us that in the event we don't have all these other things, so what will be our expected closing stock? That will be 32. And of course, if you come here, our p-value is 0.02, which is still less than 0.05. So it is significant. So it is true. We expect that our closing stock is going to be 32 in the event we don't have these two. So if we go to our predictor variables, the first predictor variable here is current asset ratio. It is negative 15.408. What does that tell us? It tells us that if it is negative 15.408, it shows that for every unit increase in the current asset ratio, it reduces the closing stock prices by 15.408. It reduces because it is negative. If it will be positive, you could have said it increases, but in this case it is negative, so it is minus 15.048. So if our